Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC. The drama at Liverpool is exploding once again. Fabrizio Romano is talking up a sublime January signing that could completely flip the Reds season, while current starters come under fire after a nightmare showing. Arne Slot faces echoes of a painful Klopp-era defeat, Virgil van Dijk has dropped a brutal truth bomb, and the atmosphere at Anfield hit a new low as Tom Werner watched on. Strap in, Reds, this one's massive. Let's dive in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. Fabrizio Romano talks up sublime Liverpool January signing that could save their season and dump starter to the bench. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed Liverpool are seriously considering making a major signing in January that could save their season and dump a regular starter to the bench. Liverpool are a mess right now and much is being made of their shambolic defending. But while they have shipped 3 goals in successive Premier League matches, the attack cannot escape criticism too. The Reds are still waiting for the real Alexander Isak to turn up. Cody Gakpo has built up zero understanding with the overlapping Milos Kerkez down the left, while Mohamed Salah is proving unusually ineffective from the right. With Luis Diaz sold, Federico Chiesa not trusted by Arne Slot and Rio Ngumaha inexperienced in the extreme, Slot feels unable to do little else than trot the underperforming Gakpo and Salah out there on the wings each week. But according to Fabrizio Romano, Liverpool are now giving serious consideration to activating Antoine Semenyo's release clause in January. The Bournemouth ace can be signed for £60 million plus £5 million in add-ons in the early part of the winter window. If Romano's comments on his YouTube channel are anything to go by, the Reds may well bite the bullet and make a huge splash mid-season. Liverpool have his name on their shortlist, for sure, began Romano. Liverpool are considering Semenyo for the January transfer window. Liverpool are well informed on the release clause, £60 million plus £5 million in add-ons. So Semenyo remains a topic for Liverpool, for sure, he's a player they are tracking and following. What has to happen to see Semenyo move to Liverpool? Liverpool need to decide internally what they want to do in January. They need to decide on a technical and financial point of view what they want to do in January. This is going to be decided in the next weeks, but Liverpool are seriously considering Semenyo. They're not the only club, because I told you last summer Semenyo was in the list of Manchester United and Tottenham. Manchester City are also following the player, so keep an eye on Man City. Romano concluded by touching once again on Liverpool, saying, for sure Liverpool are really interested in the player, and remember, the release clause is there. Semenyo would replace Salah then Gakpo. If Semenyo were to sign with Liverpool, he'd walk straight into their starting 11 on Salah's right wing. That's because Salah will be away with Egypt at the Africa Cup of Nations at that time. Semenyo's gonna fail to qualify. Upon returning, Salah would obviously retake his spot on the right side, with Semenyo likely deployed on the left side, thus pushing Gakpo to the bench. Semenyo is right-footed but equally adept at playing on either flank. Gakpo has come in for stinging criticism this term for his one-dimensional attacks and his inability, or perhaps unwillingness, to feed Kerkez whose overlapping runs go unrewarded. Latest Liverpool news, Slot's sack decision reached / toxic player situation. In other news, Romano has insisted that as of right now, Liverpool are not thinking of sacking the under-fire Slot. Elsewhere, The Athletic's James Pearce described the mix of underperforming established stars and struggling new signings as a toxic blend for the Reds. That came as part of a wider piece that laid Liverpool's problems bare in a truly sobering assessment. Liverpool star who has escaped criticism slammed after Nottingham Forest nightmare. Liverpool midfielder Ryan Gravenberch has been criticised following the Reds' dismal defeat against Nottingham Forest, which saw them lose further ground in the Premier League. Former Liverpool defender Steve Nicol has singled out Ryan Gravenberch for criticism and insists the midfielder's performances have gone under the radar in recent weeks. Arne Slot's team suffered another dismal Premier League defeat on Saturday, despite desperately needing to turn their fortunes around. They were comfortably beaten 3-0 by Sean Dyche's Nottingham Forest, their joint heaviest Premier League defeat at Anfield. The result comes just weeks after Liverpool were beaten by the same scoreline away at Manchester City, and is their 6th defeat in the last 7 league matches. Slot's side have slipped to 11th in the standings, a far cry from where they were at the end of September. A number of players have been criticized throughout this run of form, including Ibrahima Konate and Cody Gakpo, among others. However, Nickel reckons Gravenberch's performances have been subpar of late, yet the Dutchman's form has not been spoken about as much as others. There's one guy who I think has escaped criticism so far, Gravenberch, the former Red told ESPN. This is a guy who, no question after Mohamed, Salah and maybe Virgil van Dijk, was Liverpool's best player last year. He was in the right place all the time, he made great decisions, he started attacks. His main job is to be that block, that guy in front of the back four that orders the other two around, lets them go forward when they can and fills in behind. He's done none of that this year. He's another one who, as fantastic as he was last year, has completely disappeared again. Gravenberch has established himself as a crucial player for Slot after making the number 6 role his own last term. While the midfielder's output is perhaps better this season, with 3 goals and 2 assists compared to just 4 assists last campaign, Nickel is of the opinion that he has not done enough from a defensive standpoint. The Reds now face a crucial run of fixtures as they look to turn their fortunes around and regain some form. They meet Dutch side PSV Eindhoven in the Champions League in midweek, before a trip to West Ham next weekend. Then they will take on Sunderland, Leeds United and Inter Milan at the start of December, before matches against Brighton and Tottenham in the run-up to Christmas. While the title is seemingly all but gone at this stage, a fight for the top 4 and a strong Champions League run is still there at stake for the Reds. Arne Slot can't carry on with Liverpool approach after jarring echo of Jurgen Klopp defeat. Liverpool are spiraling down the Premier League table after another defeat, and Arne Slot now faces an important point of his Anfield tenure. Never mind the taunts from the away end or the grumbles and smattering of jeers that greeted the final whistle. For Arne Slot, the most worrying sound of Saturday would have been the clacking of plastic seats that was initiated by the cheap concession of a goal from Morgan Gibbs-White that ensured one of the grimmest home defeats in recent memory for Liverpool. With 12 minutes remaining and Forest 3 goals up, a steady number of Reds supporters had seen enough as they started their trudge back home, having witnessed another dismal showing from the outgoing Premier League champions. There were echoes of Jurgen Klopp's infamous lament of feeling alone when fans streamed out long before the end of his first defeat in charge at home to Crystal Palace a decade earlier, albeit that when Liverpool were only 2-1 behind rather than heading for a record-equaling Anfield Premier League reverse. Slot, though, cut a similar solitary figure on the touchline as the sight of so many empty seats behind him in the main stand made for a jarring image. These are difficult times for the Reds boss, who is negotiating the difficulties that many of his predecessors experienced during their first season in charge. Unlike all of the appointments during the Premier League era, Slot took on a team that was ready-built for success rather than one either in decline or simply failing. Only now, after a £450 million summer rebuild that was primarily through necessity than design, is the Dutchman having to contend with issues with which those before him were more instantly faced. Getting any wavering fans on side will be an immediate task, starting with the Champions League visit of PSV Eindhoven on Wednesday. The match-going Liverpool supporters still very much with Slot, but even those loyal are becoming a little unsettled by the manner of the last 3 defeats, all by a 3-0 scoreline. Virgil van Dijk's post-match comments of the players letting down their boss are not without credence, particularly when it comes to the Reds not having sufficient appetite for a scrap, but Slot hasn't helped himself with some curious team selections, appearing at times to think several steps ahead rather than addressing more pressing concerns. When appointing Slot 18 months ago, much stock was put by Liverpool in the former Feyenoord man being titled head coach rather than manager, his focus on training and coaching the team. That very much worked with the players he inherited, who were already adjusted to the unique demands of playing for the club. Now, with so many new arrivals still adapting, Slot is finding it much more demanding. It hasn't helped that key squad players have either been injured or nowhere near full fitness. But complaints of individuals not having a proper preseason must now be banished. The season is now more than 3 months old. Might Slot have to rip up his tried and trusted playbook? That might be a bit of an extreme reaction, but at the very least some tweaking is required to strengthen a defensive resolve that has almost entirely disappeared this season, Liverpool shipping 20 goals in 12 games and at least 2 in 8 of those. That may also come with a change of personnel. Joe Gomez cannot be kept wrapped in cotton wool any longer given the travails at right back and Ibrahima Konate's centre-back slump. Wataru Endo would offer a more safety-first option in midfield, while the energy of Federico Chiesa and Rio Ngumaha would surely be of benefit, even in merely longer stints from the bench. Going back to basics and becoming more pragmatic may not be Slot's default setting, but the best managers are always open to compromise. Regardless, Slot evidently cannot carry on down the same path right now. It simply isn't working, and opposing teams have long targeted Liverpool's increasing shortcomings. With December fast approaching, the statistics for the calendar year paint a troubling picture for Liverpool that outlines their decline, at least in terms of results, hasn't been overnight. Since January 1st, the Reds have played 48 games, winning 25, drawing only 6 and losing 17. Compare that to the previous 12 months, when they won 43, drew 8 and lost only 6. Under Slot alone, in that time Liverpool won 23, drew 3, and was defeated just once at home to Forest last September. Indeed, since the Premier League win over Southampton in March, the Reds have won as many times as they have lost, 14, and drawn only twice. For some context, that's as many times as they had been beaten in the previous 2 years combined. The curious lack of draws highlights Liverpool's lack of durability and a sense of either mental fatigue or something more damaging. In the Premier League this season, every time the Reds have gone ahead they have won. Every time they have gone behind they have lost. It may come as a surprise that the last time Liverpool lost 6 out of 7 league games was only less than 5 years ago during February and March of 2021, albeit with no supporters in stadia due to pandemic restrictions. That, of course, came immediately after the Reds had last won the Premier League, a further example of how Liverpool find it difficult to retain trophies. It will soon be at least 43 years since they have done so, unless something remarkable happens during the remainder of the top-flight campaign. But while the visit of PSV could provide a much-needed injection of confidence, the Champions League has predominantly been a soothing balm this season. Virgil van Dijk issues brutal Liverpool statement as Arne Slot let down by players. Virgil van Dijk has not held back when talking after Liverpool's dreadful Premier League defeat at home to Nottingham Forest on Saturday afternoon. Virgil van Dijk has questioned whether the Liverpool squad are taking on the collective responsibility of dragging Arne Slot's side out of a mess the captain accepts should not be happening to defending Premier League champions. And he believes any player who doesn't have the appetite to fight through the current adversity is in the wrong place at Anfield, while admitting the team are letting down their head coach. The Reds slumped to an abject new low of a tortuous season when they were beaten 3-0 at home by lowly Nottingham Forest on Saturday afternoon. It matched the margin of their heaviest ever home Premier League defeat and was a 6th loss in their last 7 top-flight games, and the first time since 1965 they had lost successive league matches by a margin of at least 3 goals, having been thumped by the same scoreline at Manchester City a fortnight ago. Liverpool are now in the bottom half of the table for the first time in a decade, with the pressure building on Slot to arrest a slide that has prompted talk and some quarters of a change in the dugout. And Van Dijk has pulled no punches when quizzed on the poor form of the Anfield side and their backing of the head coach. "We are definitely letting him down, but we've let ourselves down as well," he said. "You look at yourself first and then you help each other get out of this mess, because at the moment it is a mess, that's just a fact. As the champions we can't be in the situation we are in right now, but it's a fact. What are we going to do about it? We're going to try to turn it around, and that's the mentality everyone should have." When asked if there was an angry mood in the dressing room after the Forest defeat, Van Dijk responded, "Yeah, you should be angry. The main thing for me is that everyone has to take responsibility. Are people doing that? I don't know. But you have to do that. It's the main thing I want the boys to do. It's not easy during difficult times, but we have to do it if we want to get out of this. What I want is for everyone to take responsibility on the pitch. We have to do that in order to push each other, to make each other better. When someone is pressing, you have to follow the press. It's basic things, but it's not happening enough. We have to get back to that. It's easy to maybe just think about your own situation rather than the collective side when things are not going well." Van Dijk added, "Thinking about last year, which I don't like to do that much, we had a new manager and no one knew what to expect, and the consistency we had was incredible. This season we don't have any consistency, we concede far too many goals, we are losing battles, and everyone is responsible for it, and I hope everyone sees that. We have to take responsibility to turn this around, and it is easy to point fingers, but you have to do it together. We have been through it together and won the league, and everyone was part of it and happy, and when you go through a tough time you have to stick together and not point fingers. you have to be a man and face the toughness and go again, and again, because if you want to give up, then you are at the wrong place in my eyes, because this club has been going through many adversities over those years and we've always come out of it. But it doesn't mean it is easy, it's tiring, but there is no other way. Wednesday, against PSV Eindhoven at home in the Champions League, is another game, so what am I going to do, go home and cry? No, I'm going to go home and try to think how we can turn this around, and hopefully that is what everyone is doing as we. Liverpool had 74% possession against Forest but managed only 4 shots on target from 21 they attempted, and have now failed to score in consecutive league games for the first time since February 2023. They have kept only 3 Premier League clean sheets this season and, with 20 goals shipped in 12 top-flight matches, have had their worst such defensive start to a season since 1992. It was only the 5th time Van Dijk had been on the losing side in a home league game after arriving at Liverpool almost 8 years ago. And he said, "Was it as bad as it's been this season?" Yeah. You can't lose 3-0 at home. If you see the 30 minutes we played, that says we still had a very good performance, but football isn't played over 30 minutes, and that showed. We conceded and panic kicks in. As a team, you have to try to stay calm and do the right things. But we didn't do that, and that's hard to accept. We were nervous in the way we played. We were trying to force things. And the way we started the second half was just unacceptable. Going into halftime, you discuss what you want to do in the second half. Then to concede such an easy goal and find yourself 2-0 down, it's a totally different story. It's difficult. You have to be mentally strong and keep going. You have to find the calmness to create chances and be clinical in front of goal. But we didn't do that in Forest. We're also physically winning so many battles against us. Overall, a very disappointing afternoon and something that is hard to take. It's the reality. I'm not a quitter. I will never quit. I will keep going, but it doesn't mean it isn't tough to take. The realization is we are in a very difficult moment. What Arne Slot heard in the 86th minute of New Liverpool low as Tom Werner watches on. Theo Squires with the big Liverpool talking points from the 3-0 home loss to Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Sacked in the morning. You're getting sacked in the morning. Arne Slot has heard such taunts from opposing supporters at an alarmingly increased rate in recent weeks. But the sound of such a chant, coming after just 48 minutes at Anfield after seeing Nottingham Forest double their lead, would have stung far more. The East Midlands outfit remain one of only 2 Premier League sides the Dutchman has failed to beat since taking over at Liverpool last summer. But while their 1-0 victory over the Reds in September of last year was a lone blip at home in a Premier League winning campaign, such defeats are no longer a surprise during this now already surrendered title defense. Forest supporters had regularly told Slot "we're in your head" throughout the 90 minutes during their latest trip to Merseyside. But when Morgan Gibbs-White wrapped up the 3-0 win late on, they taunted the Liverpool boss with further warnings over his job security. Yet worse was to follow in the 86th minute as they really rubbed salt into the Reds' wounds, singing "We want 4." This loss was already Liverpool's joint heaviest at Anfield in the Premier League era, signaling how far they have sunk during this dismal run. They now sit 11th in the table and could see the deficit between themselves and Arsenal extend to 11 points should the leaders win Sunday's North London derby. But any hopes of catching the Gunners have long since been extinguished. The Reds have now lost 6 of their last 7 Premier League matches and 8 of their last 11 games in all competitions. While the majority have come away from home, this was the worst of the lot. And it came in front of chairman Tom Werner, who was seated in the director's box for the first time this season. His last visit to Anfield saw Liverpool lift the Premier League trophy back in May. After his first-hand look at Slot's new look side, following a £450 million summer overhaul, he would be forgiven for wondering what on earth has gone wrong. Slot still has credit in the bank after leading the club to the title, and there are mitigating circumstances for the current struggles. Only this week, Andy Robertson's emotional interview after helping Scotland qualify for a first World Cup since 1998 offered a reminder of the unprecedented grief the entire squad continues to contend with following the tragic loss of Diogo Jota in the summer. That should not and cannot be overlooked. But like it or not, football remains a results business and performances slowly continue to compromise Slot's position. This was a new low for the head coach. And the lack of Reds supporters chanting his name, in contrast to previous outings, was telling.